Yeah, I absolutely think they underestimated the power that this would have. I think what they really want is for it to go away. And the people are requesting, the people are demanding for answers because there's a lack of transparency here. And what we're not hearing is we're not hearing the survivors' voices coming through, right? And so I think that's why a lot of people are questioning, specifically what's going on and demanding for answers here. And so, absolutely, I think they have a lot of concerns for this, and I do believe it's being handled, it's being mismanaged. And their base is seeing that. People are seeing that because at the end of the day, this is not a party issue anymore, right? This is a human issue, and I think we need to bring that back because we're dehumanizing these survivors by not bringing justice forward.
I think the biggest issue that this administration has is that they're saying one thing, but then their actions are showing something completely different. So when we first came out to speak, there was the idea that the administration said that no leniency was going to be considered. And then the very next morning, we woke up and Maxwell had been moved to a minimum security prison that she does not belong in for her sex trafficking crimes. And so it felt like this big gut, like we had been violated that next morning. And so I think that's the biggest issue. And we got no reasons as to why. Why did they move her? What did she give them? That what deal did they negotiate for her to be moved? Because it's very abnormal for her to be there. That is not the prison that a child sex trafficker should be in. And so she definitely negotiated a deal.
It's not a hoax. I think it's pretty clear that these survivors are not hoax. Um, these are people, and it hurts. It's they're still healing. They had something taken from them that they can never get back. And I think it's time that we take something from these powerful men that they can never get back, which is freedom. And so by calling it a hoax is a complete disgrace to everything that my sister has worked for, everything these survivors have worked for and continue to fight for. And I hope it gives them the space, and I hope it actually pisses them off, to be honest with you, enough to continue to fight and to continue to come forward. Because I can tell you here in a hoax, I think we need to be very careful with how we say things and treat this with compassion. And that feels very uncompassionate coming from somebody that's the leader of our country.
I think I think it's very damaging. It's damaging to the survivors, and she was the survivor, and so many of them are still surviving every single day. And she took all that risk simply because it was the right thing to do. When she gave birth to her daughter and she saw her child, she knew that she had to fight, and she knew that she couldn't relent. She knew that she couldn't give up at the cost of a lot to her and to the survivors are still very much experiencing that same pain. It's one thing to go through the trauma in your life, come forward when they did. They were shamed, they were bullied, they were threatened. And now, after they've gotten the justice that they so rightly deserve, to have that ripped from them, and then using words like hoax, it's gutting.
My sister was incredibly hurt by the sweetheart deal that was made to Epstein because none of these monsters deserve any type of, leniency, as they would put it, right? And so it continues to question this even further. It continues to put more question marks on the entire case because if you're subpoenaing people and about something that they may have some sort of information on, I mean, you think that they would subpoena him simply because he was the one that made the sweetheart deal with Epstein. So I do call on them. We do call on them to call Alex Acosta. I think it's the right thing to do for survivors. And to be honest with you, while we're at it, I mean, I think another thing they need to do is listen to the survivors. I think they need to hear their voices. They need to see their faces. These are real people. So yes, I do think they should bring Alex Acosta in and have some questions because he does have information pertaining to the Epstein sweetheart deal. She'd be screaming from the rooftops right now. She cared deeply about her survivor sister family. She cared deeply about the next generation. I think what she would be pleading to the people is that we need to hear the survivors' voices, that we need to demand for justice. We need to demand that Ghislaine Maxwell remain in prison for the rest of her life. I think she would demand, Donald Trump to take action. It's not enough to say words anymore. We have to see action come through. And right now we are not seeing that. And I also think she would say something along the lines that we're talking about survivors, but let's make them humans. They're daughters, they're sisters, and they are mothers, and they are lions. They are strong. Okay? And it's time for us as people, okay, to start treating them like they were our own daughters and sisters and mothers. What if that happened to somebody that you love? We shouldn't be protecting these monsters. We shouldn't be protecting people that are on this list. It's time for us to stand up and just do what's right. Because again, this is not a party issue. This is a human issue. And when it comes to something, right, where somebody molests a child, right, I don't think there is no right or wrong here. There's one side to this, right? This isn't left or right. This is the wrong thing to do, and I think we can all agree that pedophilia in this country cannot stand. Pedophilia around the world cannot stand, and it is the wrong thing to do. And I think that's why it's such an issue right now across every single party, across every single person out there. And she would be screaming that from the rooftops. And I guarantee you she is. She may not be here with us, but she is with us in spirit. And she is still fighting.
I don't know that I could have said it any better than that. We feel this sense of, because she was so strong, because she was such a lion and advocate, even though we are in this process of grief, we can't let this stand. And, we feel this passion and compelling to come forward and fill that gap and build that for the survivors and to keep going. And so we're going to keep going as long as it takes, because that's what she would do.